Hey everyone, hope you're doing really well and welcome back to my channel where today I'm in Poland. It's about 35 degrees outside, but we are back on this UCAT grind. Now, as you can see by the title of today's video, I'm going to be going through some of the dreaded quantitative reasoning questions live on camera using MEDIFY, and I'll be talking through my thinking process, some calculations and maybe some cheeky formulas as we go along. Make sure you stay till the end of this video because I've got another super exciting giveaway to announce at the end. Now, if you've never come across my channel before, welcome. My name's Julia and I've just finished my third year as a medical student at King's College in London. If you find this video helpful, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe below. Now, before we begin, here is a formula sheet that I created in my last quantitative reasoning video, which nicely summarises all the main formulas that you need to have memorised before your exam. And if you haven't watched that video already, it'll be linked in the description below. Now, just before we jump straight into the questions, I'm just going to go through a super quick whistle-stop tour of what these formulas are. The first two formula triangles I'm going to mention are those for travel. So speed being distance over time and acceleration being change in speed over time. Next, you need to make sure that you're super comfortable with tackling questions involving means or averages, medians, and finally modes. The next formula you need to be aware of is that for percentage change, which is the new value minus the old value over the old value times 100. And just be aware that percentage change can either be positive or negative depending on whether the new value obviously increases or decreases. Make sure that you're comfortable with the formulas for circles, which includes calculating their areas, diameters, and circumferences. The next formula triangle that you should be aware of is the one for currency conversion rates, which is the amount of currency that you are taking over the amount of currency that you are giving. And finally, you should be aware of the formulas for surface areas and volumes of 3D shapes, which I'm going to put in a nice table somewhere here. Now, I know that that seems like a lot, but I promise you that once you've got these formulas memorised like the back of your hand, then the foundations that you'll have for answering these questions in the real exam will be so much stronger and you'll be able to save yourself so much more time. But anyway, without further ado, let's just jump straight in now and see if we use any of those formulas. So just like last time, in front of me I've got my laptop open on MEDIFY, which is the software that I'm going to use to practice from today. I've got a pen and I've got a piece of paper, and what I've done is I've written at the top all the formulas that I tend to forget, and I'd recommend doing the same on your whiteboard in the few minutes just before the section starts, just so you have all the formulas there and you don't have to waste any more time thinking, because as we know, every second counts. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's go straight to question 1. So I've just loaded up the first question, and straight away from the picture I can see that it's going to be one to do with measurements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight to the question and read that first, which says, how much does it cost him to paint the front wall of the dressing room in yellow paint? Okay, so assuming that this is the front wall here, what we have to do is super simple maths, basically just calculate the area of the big rectangle and take away the area of the door and the window. One thing that I'm going to mention now is that you need to remember that for these questions, the maths is going to be really simple. What they say is that the UCAT quantitative reasoning section is the same difficulty level as a standard pass at GCSE, so nothing too complex, and if you find yourself sort of knees deep in some long complex maths equation, then you're probably doing something wrong. So as we can see in this section here, it's just very simple, like areas of a rectangle. So I'm just going to go ahead and calculate that now. So starting with the big rectangle, we've got 9 times 3.5, which is 31.5. The area of the door is 2.5 times 1.5, which is 3.75. And finally the window, which is 1.5 times 1.5, which is 2.25. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the last two values from 31.5. So 31.5 take away 3.75 take away 2.25, which is 25.5. Now it says that he wants to paint it in yellow. So we go back up and we see that yellow paint is £3.50 per square metre. So you just multiply that by 3.5, which gives us £89.25, which is the second answer here. Something else I want to mention is that if you have extended keyboard, that'll be really helpful to practice from, because in the official UCAT test centres then you're given a long keyboard with a number pad on the far right, and that is so much easier to use than to sort of like press like that on my laptop, but obviously I don't have access to one right now, so we make do with what we have. Anyway, next. The next question is, he wants to fit blinds at the top of the window. The width of the blinds must cover the width of the window plus an additional 20%, and the length is the length plus 40%. Okay, so this is now a percentages question. As we can see, it's a square window, so the measurements are 1.5 by 1.5, and the width has to be an additional 20%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the 1.5 by 1.2, so it's as if the 1.2 comes from 1.2 being the 20%, so as if you're multiplying it by 120%. So 1.5 times 1.2, which gives you 1.8, and I'm going to do the same for the additional 40%. And again, the 1.4 is as if you're multiplying it by 140%, if that makes sense. So again, 1.5 times 1.4, which gives you 2.1. And we wanted the area of the blinds, so 2.1 times 1.8, which gives you 3.78 meters squared. Next, another thing I want to mention for future questions is to always keep an eye out for the units that they use, because sometimes, like in this question, all the measurements are in meters, but they could ask you something in centimeters squared or kilometers, we don't know. So always do a double take and make sure that you're looking at the right units. The next question though says, what is the volume of the changing room? Now we know that a volume of a box is width times length times height. So in this case, 3.5 times 9 times the width, which we don't have. Now because they haven't given us the width slash length, I'm not sure. I'm going to go back and read the question. So, groundsman of a football club is planning to redecorate blah blah blah. Paint. Behind the door is a cuboidal changing room with a square base. Okay, so because it's a square base, you can assume that both the length and the width are 9 meters. So we're going to multiply it by 9 again to give you 283.5 meters cubed. Next, he wants to paint the inside walls of the dressing room green and yellow stripes of equal width. However, he only paints the back wall and the 2 side walls. How much money does he spend on paint? Okay, so the measurements of the back wall are going to be 9 times 3.5, which is 31.5. The 2 side walls, same thing if we're assuming that it's a square base. So multiply that by 3 to give you the measurements of the 3 sides, which is 94.5 meters squared. Now he says that he's painted them in green and yellow stripes of equal width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that value by 2 to give us 47.25. And what this number is the amount of surface area that is going to be used for each colour. So you need to multiply that by the yellow paint as well as the green paint. So if you want the green paint, you would multiply that by 3.2. So 47.25 times 3.2, which gives us 151.2. And same thing, so 47.25 multiplied by yellow paint, which is 3.5, which gives us 165.375. Add the 2 values together. So for the green paint was 151.2, and you got 316.58, which is this answer here. Hopefully that's correct. Let's go ahead and mark it. Fingers crossed. And luckily we've got that all correct, so I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next question. Okay, so the next question that's come up is one with a massive table, and sometimes when you have questions with very large data sets, I'm not sure if this one will apply, but just be aware that it's okay to sort of flag and skip it because you don't want to waste too much time on one question. In this case, you've only got one table, so I think it's manageable, but we'll see as we go along. Again, I'm just going to go straight into the question. says, how many seconds did Ennis Hill win the 100-meter hurdles by? So if I have a look at 100-meter hurdles, his seconds were 12.54. If I go down and see the next lowest, which is this one here, so what I'm going to do is calculate 12.96, which is the guy that came in second place, and take away 12.54 to give you 0.42 seconds. The next question asks, what was the maximum number of points scored in a single event? Which, if I've understood the question correctly, just requires us to scan through the data and find the highest score, which I think will be this one here, which is 1195. But I'm going to spend another 2 seconds double checking, and it's lucky that I did because I found a 1196 for high jump. So that is the answer I'm gonna go with because I don't see anything else. Okay, next. What was the average distance thrown by the athletes in the shot put? Okay, so we've got an average question. Again, super simple maths, GCSE level. Just add the values up and divide it by the number of values that there are. Questions like this might take a while, but the positive is that you're guaranteed to get the question correct so long as you don't mess up the values. So I'm just going to go straight into calculating. So shot put, you've got 14.28 plus 14.77 plus 14.7 plus 17.31 plus 14.26 equals, divide that by 5. And the answer is 14.958, so we're going to round up. So we've got 14.96. The next question reads, if the world record in the javelin was broken by 1.89 meters, what was the previous world record? So go to javelin, which is here. We're going to assume that a world record was broken on this day. And the highest value here is 55.87. So we're just going to do 55.87 minus 1.89, which will give us 53.98. And I'm just going to reread the question to make sure I got that correct, because it says, what was the previous world record? So we know that the value has to be lower than the one in the table here. We're going to go ahead and mark it again. Yep, and we've got them all correct again. So we're going to go ahead, go to the next one. Okay, so the next question we have is also a simple looking one, just a simple table. I'm just going to zoom in because I don't have my glasses. It says, what is the average mass of the plant-eating dinosaurs in the table? Okay, unless you're an expert in dinosaurs, the first thing you want to figure out is which ones are the plant-eating ones, which are these three in the middle here. So you're going to add up their average masses and divide it by 3. So another simple average question. So 24 plus divided by 3. Does that seem right? Yeah, I would say so, because the range is from almost 2,500 to 19,000. So I think 10,000 sounds about right. Okay, so next question says, how far could a Triceratops run in 15 minutes traveling at full speed? Luckily, I've got my speed, distance, time triangle at the top here, so I don't have to think about the formula. They've given you a conversion, so 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. So the time is 15 minutes. Triceratops is here. Its top speed is 55 kilometers an hour, and all of the answers are given to you in miles. So you can either do the calculation first and then convert into miles at the end, or vice versa and convert now and then do the calculation. I'm going to convert at the end. Now the formula triangle for travel is distance is speed times time. If you have a look at the units here, they're all given in kilometers per hour. So you need to figure out how much is 15 minutes in proportion to an hour, which, as we know, is just a quarter. So what we're going to do is speed, so 55 times a quarter, which is 0.25, and that gives us 13.75 kilometers. If we want to convert that into miles, you just divide that by 1.6, which gives us 8.5 1.59 miles, which is the second option here. Okay, so the next question reads, what is the smallest number of this dinosaur of average mass that would combined exceed the mass of an average this dinosaur? Okay, so the average mass is 19,000 kilograms. I'm just going to make a note of that. A velociraptor, I don't know if I've said it right, weighs only 14 kg. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how many of these would go into that. So we're going to do 19,000 divided by 14, which gives you 1,357. Now, we want to exceed the mass of the Apatosaurus, and that is the key word here. So again, super important point is to always read the question slowly and carefully, especially in questions where you're bombarded with like 5 paragraphs of text before the table, and sometimes you just have to skim read that. But in a question, never ever ever skim read, because that's how you lose super easy points. So in this case, you've got 1,357 point, and therefore you have to round up because we want to exceed the mass. So 1358 is the answer I'm going to go with. Next, pterodactyl dies and falls from the sky. Oh gosh. A T-Rex was 45 meters away and a velociraptor was 90 meters away. How much quicker would the velociraptor reach the pterodactyl than the T-Rex to 1 decimal place? Okay, so this is another speed, distance, time equation. So first, what we want to do is find the speeds of each dinosaur and take the distance away into consideration. So again, the formula triangle is distance is speed times time. So starting off with the T-Rex, it says that he was 45 meters away. Again, we have to convert from meters to kilometers. So 45 meters would be 0.045 because you have to divide by 1,000 because there's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. So the formula for time is distance divided by speed. We said that the distance is 0.045 divided by speed, which is 29, and the answer we get is 0.00155. Now remember that this value is in hours, so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by 60 to get it in minutes, and by 60 again to get it in seconds. So we have 5.586 seconds for the T-Rex. We're next going to do the same thing for the Velociraptor. So here its speed is 60 and the distance was 0.09. 0.09, which is the distance, divided by the speed, which is 60, is 0.0015 in hours, multiplied by 60 to get it in minutes, and multiplied by 60 again to get it in seconds, and we have 5.4. Now the first answer we had was 5.586 seconds, so the difference between the two would be 5.586 take away 5.4, which gives you 0.186 of a second. To 1 decimal place would be round up, so I'm going to go with 0.2 seconds. The next question reads, the average neck length of a Apatosaurus is 8.5. What percentage of their full body length is this? Okay, so from the table we can see that their average length is 24. 8.5 divided by 24 to give you a percentage would be divided by 24 multiplied by 100, or you can do that in your head, 35.4%. Just double check, so it says what percentage of their full body length is this? Yeah, that's what we've just calculated. Next, mark test, fingers crossed. By the way, if anything of what I've said doesn't make any sense, then feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section below and I'll try and explain it a bit more clearly. Yay, we've got them all correct again. Okay, next question. I think we're going to do a few more and then probably call it a day. So the next question here is another simple table. The question says, how much does it cost for 2 adults and 2 children aged 15 and 13 to go scuba diving? So here it says children under the age of 16 get 25% off. So you want 2 adults and 2 children to go scuba diving. If you check the price of scuba diving per person is $89. So if you get our calculator out, 89 times 2 for the adults, you got 178. And we want to quickly calculate the price for the children. So scuba diving, again, 89 times 0.75 multiplied by 2, so 133.5 plus 178, which gives you the total price of $311.50. The next question says, in a group of 10 friends aged 17 to 19, 4 want to go parasailing and the rest want to go kayaking. How much would it cost in total? Okay, so it says groups of 5 people and over in the same activity get a 15% discount. So the 4 that want to go parasailing wouldn't apply to them. So let's calculate that first. So parasailing is $28 per person. So 28 times 4 is $112 for the 4 that want to go parasailing, and there were 10 altogether, so 6 of them want to go kayaking, and you get a 15% discount. So 6 times 39 is 234, a 15% discount, so times 0.85, which is like applying the 15% discount there, you've got 198.5 plus the price of the 4 that wanted to go parasailing, which we said was 112, so $310.90. Which activity costs the most per person per minute? Okay, so this is a bit of a long one. So because I'm obviously under time constraints, I don't have the time to go and calculate every single activity one by one. So I'm gonna look at the answers instead and try and compare those first. So jet ski and water ski, for instance, the more expensive one is water ski, because if you look at the time difference, you're paying a lot more for half the time of the jet ski. So jet ski is out scuba diving. Again, I'm just sort of doing this in my head, but water ski looks more expensive because obviously 15 goes into 180, a lot more than this goes into that. So far, water ski is winning. Cave tour, where's the cave tour? Yeah, again, it's cheaper. I've narrowed it down to speedboat and water ski. Speedboat, we're just going to calculate $126 divided by 60 minutes, which is 2.1. So you're paying $2.1 per minute, compared to water ski, which is 67 divided by 15, which is 4. Okay, so massive difference. So the most expensive is the water ski. How much money would a group of 8 adults save going wakeboarding in a group than going individually? So first you want to calculate the price of the group package. So there's 8 adults, which is over 5, great, so they get 15% discount. Wakeboarding is $65 per person, so multiply that by 8, gives you 520, multiplied by 0.85 to account for the discount, you've got £442, and we want to compare that to going individually. So if they were to go individually, they would be paying, what did we just say? 520. So take the value of 442, is $78 difference. Quickly mark the test, and we've got them all correct again. Next question. Okay, I think this is going to be my last one, and then I'm probably going to call it a day because it's so hot. So what is the planned spending on education in 2020? What are we looking at? Education here, the amount spent, the planned increase. So super simple, you just look at the amount spent in 2019, which is 50,476, add 11,463, and you've got 61,939. What is the planned percentage increase for spending on social care in 2020 to the nearest 0.01%? So again, we said that the formula for percentage change was the new value minus the old value over the old value times 100. So in this case, the planned increase would be the equivalent of the top half of the formula, so the new value minus the old value. So for social care is 5476, and you want to divide that by the old value, which is 67,348. And multiply that by 100, so move the decimal places by 2, you've got 8.13. Okay, so it says, which department receives the highest proportion of council tax in 2020? Okay, so again, there's too many in the table, so I'm just going to go based off of the answers. So social care, just over 70,000. Education, 66,000, so far social care. Transport, so 66 plus 8, so about 74, so far that's winning. Healthcare, 50, less than 60 anyway. And housing, a lot less than 50. So what did you say? Transport is getting the most money here. Which spending area will have the smallest percentage of planned spending increase in 2020? Okay, so this is a bit of a long one. So I think in the real exam, I'd probably just guess or eyeball and guess and then go, because I know that it's going to take me a few minutes to calculate this. I'm going to go ahead and calculate it anyway. The formula that I'm going to use will be the same for each of them. So again, they're super simple calculations, but you just want to make sure that you're not getting the wrong values into the calculator. So if we start off with healthcare, the percentage increase would be 2436 divided by 54,329. So you've got 4.5%, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the same for the rest. Okay, so the answer that I got is housing, because the housing percentage increase is 2.7, which was the lowest out of the rest of them. So next, mark test. Yay, we got them all correct. Okay, I think I'm going to call it a day there, because I think I've done enough questions. I think the only other thing I wanted to add is that if there were questions with super large data sets, so I know things with probably 2 or more tables, then in a real exam I would probably guess. So I guess the moral of this whole video is just to show you how simple every calculation is, and there really is no complex maths in this section. So the key, I think, is, especially when you start revision, is not to get overwhelmed by the data and just to take each question slowly, read it carefully. Now obviously I know that I sound like a broken record right now, but I've literally said in every single video that the key to doing well in every single section, especially this one, is practice. I think I mentioned this in my last quantitative reasoning video, but I was super lucky to score 890 in this section, and although I want to say it was a partial fluke, because obviously when I was revising I wasn't scoring 890 every day, but I do genuinely believe that with enough practice, I think this is probably the easiest section to improve on. I think the key to that score, honestly, was just not panicking and just taking each individual question as it comes and not being too overwhelmed and panicked by all the data, because obviously they're going to throw massive tables at you half the time, which you're not even going to use. So obviously easier said than done, but just try and take it easy. Make sure that you write down the formulas on your whiteboard at the start of the section. And I think it might be reassuring for you to know that myself, and I know many others, found the official UCAT paper to be a lot easier than some of the questions that you find online. So whether you're doing really well at the moment or maybe not so well, just be reassured that the official paper can be, obviously don't take my word for it, but can be slightly easier than online questions. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my last quantitative reasoning video where I went through more sort of tips and tricks and things that can help you improve your speed. Also, speaking of practice, I've had a few people ask me what the best resources are, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. For me personally, my biggest improvement came from using MEDIFY. So once again, if you're not sure about MEDIFY, what it is an online software with tens and thousands of questions, hours and hours worth of videos and explanations and mock papers. And actually, let me just show you. In front of me, I've got the UCAT 2020 online course. Obviously, I'm not using it for revision purposes, so ignore all the statistics. I'm just using it for the purpose of these videos. Here at the top, you can enter when your UCAT exam will be. So let's say mine was on the 8th of October, gives you a countdown, which is super helpful. You've got 3 sections here: learn, practice, and simulate. And so when you first start revision, what you can do is go into learn. And what that has is super helpful videos to explain how to tackle questions from each of these sections. Now, practice is where you have the question bank of thousands of questions. There's literally so many that you can practice to your heart's content. So within practice, you've got the study mode where you can just sort of pick and choose, or you can group questions into sort of 10, 20, 30, 40, and just do a group of questions under timed conditions to practice your speed, which is super important for the UCAT, as we know. Then you've got simulate. So here you have mini mocks, which is probably what you want to be focusing on as your exam date approaches. So again, you've got quite a few for each section. So once again, you can practice to your heart's content. As you can see, I did all 5 abstract reasoning ones, and once you've completed it, it comes up as completed. And then you've got 8 full UCAT mocks, which again, you can practice to your heart's content until you want to gorge your eyes out, but at least this way you'll know that you've done enough revision. Also, just really quickly on the dashboard, you can monitor your progress in every single subsection, and they've literally broken each subsection down into very small specific categories. So for instance, quantitative reasoning, you can see how you've answered in each of these categories compared to the mean average user, and which categories you haven't yet practiced. So again, you can really target your revision to benefit you as much as possible. If you haven't yet invested and you've got some time before your exam, I'm very excited to announce another MEDIFY giveaway of 2 2-week UCAT passes for this year. A massive shout out to MEDIFY, who have been super generous in allowing me to do these giveaways, so make sure to check them out in the description below, and that's where you'll also be able to find the details for how to enter the giveaway. Once again, best of luck if you're sitting your UCAT soon. I know we're almost approaching the end of the season, so keep at it, keep grinding. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe below. Also, leave a comment below for any feedback that you have or any future video suggestions, because I do read every single one and I like to take your ideas on board. And yeah, I think that's it. So once again, best of luck, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye.